Thank you, Colleen, for telling me
Yes,
we would have
welcome.
gone without recording.
Yep.
So the first one, Lee, so we just to verify that we did approve the minutes from the 16th before the recording started. But the
Yeah.
Neil Jackson 25 Cold Hill Drive, we did approve this one, but the new owners want to build a garage, and the garage is going right where the SAS was going to go. So Neil moved the system that we talked about this at the last meeting, and we said we were going to let him go to within the, I think it's 62 feet for the SAS for the wetland, but we did not give him a variance on water table separation. So he did submit it as repair for a 3-bedroom house, a complete system. The only thing that I've got down here is that the review is not complete because unless Neil dropped it off, he said he was going to drop off the PE stamp for the wall that he's got at the side of the SAS. But Neil redesigned the system to allow the installation of the garage. The SAS moved to the rear or the west, closer to the wetlands. It is a cleared, grassy, 1-acre lot, slightly sloped down to the rear to the west. Then still 32 and 34-inch water table. Wetlands are to the west. The issues with the house orientation in the garage, the water table, the dense soil, and the wetlands. The design it's a smaller SAS, but the design is for a 1,500-gallon 2-compartment tank with a filter, single pump, and a 1,000-gallon pump chamber. It does have the separate electrical circuits as required. There are 2 trenches, each with 6 Elgin B43 modules in the C33 sand. The trenches have vents, reusing the existing plumbing and the building sewer. Fill is required, a concrete wall and a 40 mil polyethylene barrier on the north side of the SAS. There's 450 gallons a day provided versus 440 required. The reserve area is not provided. It's on a repair, you don't have to. 4-foot water table separation. Ballast is required for the tank and the pump chamber. He's removing the existing septic tank. I've noted that the pump chamber and the septic tank separation to the wetlands more than 100 feet. The SAS to the wetlands is 62 feet to the wetland versus 50 feet that's required. At our last meeting, Bill and in fact the 3 of us agreed that in this case our 100-foot requirement would be waived and we would allow that. And also this hasn't changed, but the existing well is about 80 feet from the new septic tank, and the same as the one we approved. So the discussing was the trench permit, the fill requirement, the electrical permit. No plumbing permit is required because we're reusing the existing plumbing. There is an elevation error on one trench. It is a drawing error. It's not a design error. Neil was fixing that, and a PE stamp is required for the wall. What are your thoughts, Lee?
The only thing I don't see on the south side of the property, actually on both sides, south and north, I don't see, unless I'm missing it, notation on neighbors' wells. Because there are houses on both sides, obviously. I don't see a notation to either 23 or 27.
So then we should put a verification that another condition besides the PE stamp, we have to verify that the SAS is further than 100 feet from any neighboring wells.
Yeah, I just don't see a notation, and usually there's one here.
Yeah,
But I'm reading quickly, and I didn't come up with it.
okay.
That might be an oversight.
But it's
Usually
okay. It
it's
should be, it should be there, Lee. So
Yeah.
what we've got on this drawing that we don't have, that elevation is incorrect. We don't have the PE stamp, and we haven't verified that the wells, the neighboring wells have the required separation. So maybe this one there's enough here that we not approve this, that we approve it subject to meeting those three conditions, please.
Yeah,
That way we don't have to.
that's more than fair. If Neil
Okay.
supplies that information and we attach it to this application and it meets all the requirements, then there's no sense in waiting 2 more weeks for us to meet again.
Okay. So that's what, Colleen, that's what we're doing.
Okay, you're proving it subject to those three things. Mhm.
Right. Or we are going to approve it. We approved it, the design. We're not approving the permit. So the permit doesn't get approved until those three conditions are met. And at that point, once, in fact, Lee, why don't you and I leave it that once I see that, I can then let Colleen approve it. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
The
Okay.
next one, Lee, I did not complete the review. Now, this is for 326 Bachelor Street. If you're going from the center of town toward Belchertown, so you pass Harris Street, drop down the hill to Tromsky Avenue, and then come up to the top of the hill. It's on that flat spot up on the right, and it's a repair. What Neil has submitted is a repair, but it's a 2-house lot. There's a house on the front, as you look at from the street, on the front left, the main house. But then on the back, on the right, there is another. Looks like a 2-car garage with an apartment in it. I'm not even sure that it's being used or has ever been used. But anyways, it's mainly a cleared 1 acre. It's only a 1 acre lot. Deep sand, no water table. I think there actually was water table at like 80 something inches. 2 houses. There's only 1 well, 1 septic system. The issues that I had, and I told Neil that I couldn't review this without board involvement. But the issue is a 2-house property. Possibly it's not permitted right now. There's a single well, a single septic system. I'm not sure what we want, whether we want to approve this thing, but then I've got the standard trench permit is required. I've said, do we want the building inspector approval? There are no lot lines shown. There's no locus shown. Talk about, do we need 2 wells for these 2 houses? That well dimensions aren't included on this one either, Lee. Do we need 2 septic systems? Are there deed restrictions for the 2-bedroom design for the SAS? And Lee, I don't know on this one. I guess my feeling is that the board shouldn't approve a septic system for something that could be illegal in terms of the building inspector. And if in fact there is a dwelling unit that's unpermitted and not approved yet, allowing a septic system to go into it. I have issues with. I guess what my recommendation would be to get the building inspector involved and say, hey, is this legal to be putting a second house here? Lee, what are your thoughts?
No, I would agree that, baggage on this location. So crossing.
I'm not hearing you right now, Lee.
Oh, is that better now?
Yeah,
Okay. So yeah, I would think that at least have this print or something similar across the building inspector's desk, get him to weigh in on this and check out the legality of it. Because as we know from the past, we had a rather large house on the corner of Barton and Pleasant, and the whole house was split in half. 2 different owners now going
Right.
forward. That was some years ago. But this piece of property would end up in a similar fashion. I just don't know what the town bylaws state about, again, your point of 1 well, 2 locations, 2 kitchens, multiple bedrooms, 1 SAS. Maybe everything needs to have its own little domain. So if they do, in fact, later in life decide to split this up, it's done and it's not a big deal, just paperwork.
okay. So Colleen, both Lee and I are saying is we're not approving this design and we're not reviewing it. And we're going to ask the building inspector for his opinion on whether the project can move forward at all.
Okay,
Right.
So
I'll send him
Yeah.
the print.
yeah, because Lee and I both are of the opinion that the Board of Health shouldn't approve a septic system for something that's not legal to be there.
Yeah. Yep, okay,
Yeah, the whole
So-
thing could be questionable to his office, and we don't want to
Yeah.
okay,
cross his expertise and
Yeah.
add to the problem.
okay, okay,
The next one, Lee, is for the replacement of a septic tank. And there are actually 2 D boxes. There's a D box down, both at the bottom of the hill. 1 D box to cut down on the velocity going down the steep hill, and the other D box for the SAS. It's at my house. Alan is the one that's going to talk about it. It's just one that I asked actually Josh Fugler to come in and just replace it because I haven't treated the system properly, the tank properly, and I'm afraid when I see all these things that are being replaced, rotten tanks, rotten D-box, that I'd rather not end up in trouble in the middle of the winter. So I can answer questions, but I can't discuss it really because I'm in conflict. So I just
Yeah, but
will pass on this until.
basically, is Bill coming in later tonight, or can we just,
I don't know. As far as I can see, according to the regulation, is that since I'll be abstaining, but we
Yep.
have a quorum. We have a quorum at the meeting, so it is a legal meeting, and that a vote of 1 with an abstention would be a pass.
Okay, I mean, we're not
So-
engineering anything different. We're simply doing a replacement of that 1 component.
Well, it's actually 3 components: the septic tank and the 2 D boxes. But why don't we?
Okay.
So why
I mean, I
don't
would
we?
say we can wait, but I don't want to forget either.
No, I think Alan's going to be here tonight. So
Okay.
Yeah, one way, if Alan doesn't come, then that's a different thing, because yeah, then we can do that. But let's not
Okay.
have you approve it until Alan's here, if he is here.
Okay. Okay.
I
well,
just
then
want to
that's
let you
cool.
know that I think Lynn's here, so.
Well,
I
Lynn
just
is
wanna-
Oh,
here,
all right.
okay. Then let's break it.
Right, is that you, Lynn?
Actually,
Yes, it
we're
is.
right,
Okay.
let's ask Lynn to hang in there for one more thing.
No problem.
Alan has got one for 68 Amherst Street. It's a repair, it's a replacement of an SAS. It's the Octagon House, Lee. If you're coming from Five Corners, you go up the hill and then make the first dip and then start up the hill again on the right side before you get to the
Yeah,
top of the step.
I got an idea. I know. Yeah, based upon the house description, I know where you are.
Okay, it's a fill
So-
system. It's apparently in 2008 they replaced the D box. I mean the tank. The review is complete, but it's what it is a cleared, grassy 1.5 acre lot. It's sloped down really to the west towards the road and towards Five Corner. It was filled 28-inch water table. The proposal is that the system was designed in fill with the 4-foot separation. The fill was put in 9-foot spacing on the trenches, and this is to put 3 3-foot by 50-foot by 12-inch effective depth trenches without vents. When they put it in, they didn't put enough fill on the north side. They didn't put the fill actually to put the extra trench in. So they ended at 5 feet from the edge of the trench instead of going another 9 feet. So this requires that fill to be put in place. There's 556 gallons a day provided versus 550 gallons required. There's not a reserve area because this is in the reserve area with a 4-foot water table separation. That issue, the SAS and the septic tank and it's cleared the 100 feet, the wells and wetlands all more than 100 feet. So this is like one of the few times when we approve a set of trenches with 9-foot spacing and leave the space in between for the reserve. And this is exactly that, to replace it, put the reserve where it was designed. Alan went out and looked at the property, actually had him dig a hole next to the stand in the system, but he didn't do a perk test. So that the things that we're questioning, there's a trench permit required. There is still required, as I explained. An issue with the lack of the perk test. And what Alan said, he said, we've got the fill on top. It's sand. It's 2-minute sand. He said, that's what we brought in when the design was made. And he said, if you go in and do the perk test the way the perk test is supposed to be under the SAS, he says, you're going to dig out this beautiful sand that you need to use to put the new system in. And he said it's been perked 2 different times. He dug the hole outside of the SAS, and he said it's only a 28-inch water table. So he said, we're going to have trouble doing the perk test more than likely, and it's not going to be in the place that we said it needs to be. So Alan said, this is really, really a unique case, and suggesting that we not do the perk test on this one. But
I understand. The only brief conversation I had with Alan was that he did have a desire for whoever does the work on this site to also, because the tank is very deep, he wants to see the outlet side of the tank exposed. I think the tank is maybe 6 or 7 feet down in the ground right now.
Wow, so it needs,
And he just wants to be sure that the tank is in, even though it's not that old, in really great condition to go forward for the new owner.
okay.
So I guess my next question is, I think I know the answer, but is Mr. Archambault going to be doing his own work?
At this point, I don't think he has a installer's permit.
Okay. So, all right, I'll just let it go.
So the
right.
question then also, Lee, it's been a long time since you've looked at it, but I wonder if the towers that are in there, the extensions from the tank up to the surface have been installed. Although
I
Alan
don't know.
Alan
I don't
told
know
me
how
he
many
looked into the
risers are
tank.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
So,
must have had
Colleen,
some risers.
so it looks like we would approve this design, Colleen, subject to verification that the outlet of the septic tank is sound and in good condition. It has to be exposed, and that if the risers from the tank to the surface aren't there, that they need to be installed also. Is that what we're saying, Lee?
I believe so. And should we also make a footnote to Alan that he needs to confirm that the homeowner does not do his own work since he has no permit to operate in town?
Yes, we should say that this has to be installed by a licensed installer. An installer with a current license to install septic.
Current license. Yeah. Just in case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And since there's going to be fill installed, the fill requirement is there that needs to be a strip inspection before the fill is placed.
Right. Okay.
That's part of our fill requirement, but that's just so everybody knows that this doesn't happen. Okay, now we have Lynn.
Hello. There, Lynn.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you tonight?
I'm okay, pretty good. So for me, I have a couple questions. The first question on my list is Cruisin' Cafe. Isaac had asked me to go there and do an inspection, which I thought I was going in to do an inspection, but it ended up being like a pre-operational inspection for the kitchen. And so I gave him, a list of stuff to do before opening, but it sounds like there's an issue now with the water. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but I guess my question is whether or not you want me to go back there while they're up and running. I'm assuming the answer is yes, to do an actual inspection, take temps and do all that.
What is your thought, Lee? My thought is yes, you do go back in.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah, I would support that for sure.
Especially, Lynn, since this one is set up that the septic system has got really limited capability, and they're supposed to be using all disposable plates and silverware, well, not silverware, utensils, and minimizing the generation of any kind of oil or grease. So that's really important. But now go ahead.
Yeah, he told me that. He said that because I asked about, because I was asking about the dish, because they do have a dishwasher in there. But because it didn't look like it was hooked up, or it didn't look like it was going to be functioning anytime soon. And I had known, because I'd read some stuff about that before, what was said in the meetings. But he said that he was not going to use it for that reason, which is the right answer, because I assume that's what was going on. But he was only going to be doing washing dishes, but most of the stuff is just going to be disposable because of that. So that's what he had told me. So I don't think he's going to be doing much of dishes at all. And I can't remember what the menu is, but I'm sure he's going to use enough grease, that's for sure. But he said he was going to have the grease trap looked at, because I had asked him about the grease trap, and get that going too. So, but again, nothing was really up and running at that point, like as far as the kitchen is concerned.
We're at a spot, Lee, I don't know if you saw what Lynn just mentioned, is that the DEP has just sent out a note saying that operation is currently listed as a public water supply. And
That
they
restaurant?
are not, yeah, and they're not in compliance with the reporting and not having an operator, it looks like. And so the DEP is really saying that they're in just straight violation. And I'm just wondering if to let the guy operate, if you tell him that he's not authorized to serve, that he can't make ice and serve it, he can't cook with the liquid that comes from the well, he can't make soda, or if whatever he's doing, he can't let people drink that water. Or
How
else
can
he can't. Go ahead.
how can they say it's public water supply when it's never opened? In
It
other
only
words,
has to be, what, 25 people for more than 60 days a year? Is that what it is?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
oh, so are they referring to the number of seats that are in the, I haven't been in there for a couple of years, so I don't know what they have for seating right now, if that's where they're getting this, data.
Well, I'm guessing it was someone that reported to him that's saying, we're going to serve more than 25 people a day when we're open.
Oh, okay, so that's their goal, but, okay, they haven't gotten there yet, so he's shooting himself in the foot here.
Well, unless he just doesn't know that he's listed as a public water supply. Maybe it's never his intent to be serving the public water. And
Right, but your comments are correct that the manufacturer of if they make the soft serve ice cream, if they make ice, they make different sodas, and they have 25 plus a day, then yeah, it's public water supply.
Well, can I say something? When I was there, at the time during the inspection, what from my understanding is that because he's not supposed to be doing soft serve, so because otherwise that has to get tested as well, going to a lab. So he's literally scooping ice cream from a carton and serving it to the public. And the soda is coming from like a fountain, like one of those, I can't think of the word, but the machines and stuff. Like I don't know. I don't know if he's using his own water now that I think about it to get that going, or how that works. And I'm trying to think if there was an ice machine. He's got to have one, but I don't remember seeing it. But yeah, I do so many inspections I don't even remember. But
yeah, so
it's possible.
Maybe from your standpoint, Lynn,
yeah,
if we're at a spot, he basically has two choices here. One is if he's going to supply water or ice or things made with his water. If he's going to supply that to the public, he can't open until he gets in compliance with what the DEP is saying. The other is if you go back in and say, whoa, as long as you don't supply this, then you can go to then he's actually got two routes to go. One is he can go and say, well, I'd like to supply this, but I've got to get back up and in good standing with the state as a public water supply. The other is that he said, I'm never going to be a public water supply and I'm going to get decertified. So he would have to go through, which is the same thing when we get to the Union Mark. That's in fact what Union Mark had done, is they got themselves decertified.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So there's a way out, obviously.
There is a way out. The question is, do we want to, do we want to give him the room if his choice is that I guess he could go at an in-between way if we let him and say, for right now, you can't supply the water to anybody. And he says, okay, I'll do that for the next month or 2 months until I get back online and get myself current with the public water supply. So we could do that. So but for right now, we would have to say, you can open, that Lynn would go in and say, you can't be serving people this water, anything made with this water. And Lynn, you would have to be satisfied that he was doing that if we allowed it to happen.
Right.
Lee, my feeling right now is this guy he's been up and up with us. I would like not to get into a position that we say, okay, you've gone this far, now you're stuck. You can't open at all.
Yeah,
he seems that way. Yeah, I agree. I feel like he's going to do the right thing and do what honestly, like what everyone tells him to do. I think he's very frustrated with the process. It sounded like when he was talking to me, not necessarily with the Board of Health, but like in general, trying to get this up and going.
I could fully understand and appreciate where he's coming from.
Yeah.
He's getting beat up every time he turns his head.
That's what he said, yeah.
With this project, and obviously he's got, every 30 days there's an invoice due to the bank or whoever. Well, yeah, he needs a little bit of wiggle room to make payments here before the the inevitable.
Yeah.
I can't remember if the last owner had public water there or not. I don't even remember that.
I recall that because I was trying to determine whether there were 3 of them in that little spot. There was Dollar General had a public water supply that they were dealing with, and they got rid of theirs, and then they put it. I think they finally went back with one. I can't remember where they are, but they were moving their well. So they started with a public water supply, and then I think they got rid of it, and then I think they moved the well again to get it back. But across the street there's a public water supply, and this one. So, Lynn, it looks like, Lee, you agreed, I'm putting in your words, that in your mouth, that we're saying you can in fact open, but you can't be, until this is resolved, you can't be supplying any product, including ice, to the public that's made with your water.
That's correct.
So
and that's all you want me to. Okay, okay, and that's easy. I can do that easily tomorrow. And that's all you want me to say to him? You're not like giving him like, or is he just have to figure out on his own what he needs to do?
Well, he's got to decide. Go ahead, Lee.
No, I'm sorry. The DEP sent him a note and maybe
Oh, so he got the
somebody-
note. Okay, okay.
Well, they
think
said
they
this
did.
week they will issue one.
They will.
Oh,
issue one.
okay,
So
so-
maybe,
I don't know if they've issued it
maybe-
yet, but yeah, sorry.
maybe-
Lynn.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I'm gonna go in there,
exact-
it's gonna be like, what are you talking about? I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
And you
I
should-
mean,
yeah, you should
hopefully-
tell them, maybe you can get Colleen to give you a copy of what DEP sent to us.
Yeah, I'll send it to
Okay.
Lynn when I get it.
Okay, that sounds
Yeah,
good.
and then if we're really lucky, then there'll be an individual who signed the letter, rather than just the the state. So if it's an individual, that individual could certainly throw him a bone and discuss how to survive and lose for temporarily or permanently the public water supply status that he thinks he needs, because that may be too much for him to take on right now.
It may be, he may be in lots of trouble. You know, it may make him put a well in or something that's way up at the end of the driving range.
Yeah, and at this point in time, after the last year of, struggling and now have this thing show up, this could be just beyond the scope.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah, I mean, I want to help the guy, but I want to make sure that everybody, of course, is, doing the right thing here. Obviously, for all parties concerned.
Lynn, there's another one that's gonna be, we're gonna talk about, I see, I'm just looking at our schedule, we're already late on our schedule for tonight, but what I was gonna talk about tonight, and it would affect you, I think we already got burned a little bit with the wine house, that we allowed events to occur on something that was kind of existing, and then we said, oh, we're going to have some kind of event and operate with a building without toilets and a business without toilets with just Sandy cans, and now we've
Yeah,
got,
he told me that. Okay.
yeah, and then we've got the planning board, I think, maybe approve an event site up on Harris Street. We've got an event site that's approved on Aldrich Street or Amherst Street at a farm. And my feeling is we've already got a protocol and a policy that says temporary food events require permits. Every one of them requires a permit. If you look at them, the churches get them, the Boy
Sure.
Scouts get them, everybody gets them. And
Yeah, of course.
we end up with what looks like is people are trying to have is saying, hey, just approve my site and I can have 150 people come over for a party, and that I'll get someone coming in to cater it, and don't worry, we'll be all safe, and I'll bring some toilets in, and instead of saying, you know what, every one of these events is different. You don't have any fixings, you don't have any toilets, you don't have any kitchens, you don't have any trash pickup, you don't have anything. And all of a sudden you say, oh, let me have as many of these as I want. And I think we've got the Board of Health has got a protocol that says every one of these is going to get a permit. And
Sure.
we don't collect the money because of the nonprofits doing it, but I don't, Colleen, what is it, $100 permit? Is that what's involved
Well,
with these?
you kind of did away with the one day, right? Except for nonprofits, but well,
That
we've
was a
got
food truck. Those were food trucks.
the mobile food truck. Yes, they get $100 for the year.
Right. But that
Yes.
was their device. They've got a fixed machine that you can inspect, and it's the same machine. And
Hmm.
it's not the same thing as, there's a whole thing out in the middle of the field that's got all these things occurring. And I, Lee, do you think that that's what we should, what happens though, the reason I'm saying that, well, Lynn is here, is that would require that every one of these would end up having to get an inspection to find data. I'm guessing we'd have to say, okay, you guys have to tell us how many people are coming, how many toilets you're having, who owns the toilets, what's the water supply, who's doing the food, how's the food being kept clean, how are people washing their hands? You know, there are a whole bunch of things that have to be covered for a safe, paid operation. I don't know. What are you thinking, Lee?
Are these events? I'm confused. Are these events like someone's like doing these things, or is it someone's yard? Like I'm a little confused.
Well,
What?
For instance, there's a farm on Amherst Street. This is a farm, and he's got a grassy area, and he's got a barn, and sometimes they're in the barn, sometimes they're not in the barn. He's just got his house septic system, and they claim up to 150 people going. Let's say someone was going to have a wedding reception. They could have 150 people there out in the field or in a tent. And the one in on Howard Street is up at the top of the hill, and it's the same basic kind of concept. They come in, they put up a tent, and have they keep talking about 150. I'm not sure if there's 250. I'm not sure how they stop 250, but it's on the field. And if they have one Santa can, that's what they have at this point, because we don't have any permits.
Right.
So we could get a lot of people really sick.
I think that it's important that every single event be viewed as a unique event, and therefore you could get different food trucks, different staff. There may or may not be anyone there who's ServSafe certified. We just don't know these things. My sense is that every event is unique, and therefore every event needs to have its own permit each and every time. I don't think.
I agree.
Go ahead.
I totally agree. Even if they have an annual, like they should just apply for like a temporary permit because it's different.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't think we should just say, okay, you have a permit for the next 3 months. Do what you want.
Well, I think usually temporary permits are like 14. Is it 4? I think it's 2 weeks, right? 14 days.
Well, we don't have to. It depends. Yeah. It depends what it is. If it's a temporary permit like the Eastern States, then you say, okay, that's really one event that's going on. But if it's, let's say Saturday I have one event, and then a whole new group of people and a whole new group of food, and Sunday's the next one, then those are different events.
Yeah.
That's exactly my train of thought right now. I agree 100% with that. And each one is permitted.
Yeah.
And, it's all separate rules, separate regulations. And I don't know, we touched upon this last meeting. I don't know how the Santa can industry measures the number of people versus the number of Santa cans on site. That has to be, to me, that's a critical, potential critical figure that we need to be aware of and enforce somehow.
Looking at this
Can't
just
have
before
two
we go out of
Santa
it.
cans.
Yeah. So Lee, that we'll have to have something that people have to fill out the form to tell us on the Santa cans, when they're gonna get there, who's gonna empty it, how many they're gonna be, how many people are gonna be there. What do you do when a thing doesn't work right? The whole protocol of about keeping a site safe, but as I look at this, I'm guessing you could easily have Lynn get involved with a minimum of one inspection at a time, but you certainly could end up with 2 inspections. So and we've got Lynn set up that it's $100 an inspection. So what is the
That's
permit
correct.
fee for this? A couple $100?
I think we gotta go on a per event basis.
Yeah,
We're gonna be running negative money, and all the time.
yeah,
'Cause
and
if Lynn's doing Harris Mountain Road, Amherst Street, the White House, and the next one that we haven't heard about yet, theoretically she could be out doing 6, 8 events in a 3-day period.
yeah, so I think it's
And-
reasonable to do a $200 permit for this
Per time.
per time.
Yep.
So that's what
Yeah,
we're
I
gonna
would
do,
agree.
Colleen.
Okay, so it'll be a temporary permit for $200 and
It's gonna be
Okay.
for one day.
for one day. And what if they're having it like for the weekend, put 2 days or something? Just
Well, typically, if I do like just my experience, because we get that all the time. If you get an event and it's the same food, it's the same food truck and all that, and you got one person in there at least that's serve safe, you do it once and then they're there for the weekend or whatever, and I'm
Yeah.
done.
okay. Yep.
But,
Right.
I mean,
You don't
that's,
have to go
but
back
that's a
3 times.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, because otherwise I'd be out all the time.
Yeah,
So
you're right.
Yeah, you never
then
have
we'll
anything
call it,
off.
we'll call it per event. But if these people are doing per wedding, you don't say, oh, it's a weekend wedding, 2 different weddings, it's the same event. It's not. It's 2 different
No,
weddings.
no,
no,
That's
yeah,
correct.
yeah.
yeah, because it's a complete change of staff who the whole thing is all different. I would agree. It has to
that's
be
the way-
per event.
And what's a reasonable time for notice for us? That we make the churches, everybody's got to give us 30 days. Is that what?
I think that's more than reasonable. All of the planning and purchasing and cooking and all the everything just doesn't happen. It's not like we're going to go to Colleen's house this weekend for steaks on the grill. And we
Right.
swing by the Stop and Shop, we swing by the package store, show up a couple hours later, we're cooking steaks on the grill, lobsters are in the pot, and a couple of drinks, and everybody's happy. That's not this kind of situation. This is something that's planned. They're
Right.
advertising, they're selling whatever they're selling to get people there. So, yeah, there's a lot of planning involved, just like Charter
So-
Day, anything else like that.
So do we do this in a way that says, okay, if it's less than 30 days, the permit
Yeah.
goes to $400, which makes it so it's worthwhile that Lynn ends up getting double pay.
I think that's reasonable because Lynn, like the rest of us, has a life other than work.
Or we may have
It
to
may
hire
not
somebody.
say that.
We may have to hire somebody else, Lee. But
That's
what if we have to go
Yeah.
out and hire another inspector that is not going to work for the $100 an inspection that Lynn's talking about?
Good luck.
Well,
Right. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Good luck.
So that
Good luck finding someone. No, I mean, if I have, obviously there's obviously occasions where, especially if it's a weekend, if I'm not around, but typically I am around. So like if I have enough notice, I will, unless I'm going to Portugal again or something, you know what I mean? Like I'm typically around. I have no problem, but I understand what you're saying. I get it.
So,
Yeah,
okay,
I
so
mean,
that's
and
what we're gonna,
and that being said, not that Colleen has nothing to do, but my suggestion would be to send out notes to at least these 3 locations. Harris Street, Amherst Street, and East Street, the Wine House, and let them know how the rules of engagement are going to be in this town. And if they don't comply, they don't have an event. I mean, there's no other way to do it.
no. Now, my guess is that you're gonna see that the wine house ends up saying, no, this is no longer an event kind of thing. It's my business. I'm no different than Anthony's or something, that I'm there and that's what happens every weekend.
But here's the problem. That particular location is not working with us. We have we're waiting on a June 1st.
I lost you again.
We're still waiting on a June 1 septic plan from
Yeah,
an
I did.
engineering firm.
Let me get back to that. Neil told me that by our next meeting, he will have the design in for the tight tank.
Okay. And I don't
But,
know, there's a note
but as
about
I
a food
told-
establishment.
Yeah.
And there's
So
a food
what
establishment
happened is
license extension.
we're running hopelessly late here at this point. Lynn must be
Yeah.
ready to, so we actually got someplace here. Lynn agreed
Yep.
with us that this is an event. We've said that it's going to be a $200 permit per event. It's going to be, and it's a 30-day notice. If it's less than 30 days, it's a $400 permit.
So, without
Okay.
killing more time, if the establishment on East Street always uses the same truck, then Lynn's point of having the same staff there, serve safe, certified, makes perfect sense. However, if every other weekend there's a different food truck vendor on site, then then the potential is that Lynn may or may not want to or be required to do an inspection, and therefore the permitting has to be different. You know what I mean?
Right.
If it's gonna be Sam's hot dogs every single weekend there, and Sam's running a good operation, everybody's happy. If it's not, then we're opening the door to other situations, and that may or may not be looked upon by the other event people as being biased in some way.
Yeah,
Splitting
but
hairs, I know.
I think what you're going to see happen, I think,
Yep.
is that Jim Tromke is going to be saying, wait, I'm a different thing. I have my own building. I'm now going to have 6 toilets that are going there. I have my own water supply. I've got my
Yep.
own staff. I've got a food service license. And he's going to say, I'm not a temporary guy. I'm a full blown person. And that, again, what I think we made the mistake on is saying, once you say, oh yeah, you're temporary, you can get by with Santa cans, that puts you into a whole different world. And, but Jim is moving out of that world. That's what I think.
Okay.
But let's
So
see,
I mean,
but
if
at
he
least,
moves out and does his own food prep or has someone do it for him, we eliminate the food trucks, then I agree it's a different scenario, a different set of rules.
yeah,
I completely get it. I agree with that scenario. I'm not on board with rotating different food trucks in and out that aren't being looked at.
no, for sure, you can't, I don't think you can do that.
No, and
Okay.
And
I've
as
been
we-
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been there plenty of times when it's different food trucks. You know what I mean? Like I've been there a lot on the weekends. So
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's and that's my point. And
you're right.
you know, the other thing too, Lynn, is that you're doing the town a really, really good service. And you need to get paid for it, and the town needs to generate income to pay the work that you're doing and all the paperwork that Colleen is generating to keep everything in motion.
Right.
Yep.
But that whole thing,
Everybody's
when
in
you,
the business.
Lee, when you talk about it, each one of these trucks just about says, oh, we're using the toilets, we're using the water, and we have, those aren't permanent things. That, at least right now, they're not. And so you're back to what you're talking about. You're either
Yeah.
on board as a permanent operation or you're a temporary, and you're not going to pick and choose and get the best of both worlds.
No.
So,
Okay.
Okay.
so anyway, okay. Len, are you done with us?
Yeah, there's one other thing, but I know we're way over, so it's fine.
Well,
fine.
one of the things while you're here, we ought to at least ask what we're going to do or talk about what we're going to do on that Jacqueline Circle property.
And that was my question. Yeah.
You're really, from what I can see, Len,
I'm in a pickle.
from the picture, I think we should condemn the place.
Yeah, I think I'm in a pickle because I also think if I go in there and it's gonna, from what I could see, yes, I agree with you. So, and then that leads to a whole other ball of like, you know what I mean? Like if I was like a permanent, you know, whatever, in Granby it'd be one thing, but like this is going to be during work hours. I know there's going to be court dates, re-inspections. I'm going to be subpoenaed. Like I've seen this over and over again because it's happened to me. And that's where I get nervous because like, you know, my hands are kind of tied on that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And
Then
maybe only because I talked to the lawyer and the lawyer's like basically said that the landlord is not going to do anything. He's refusing to fix anything. He's trying to get everyone evicted. And I guess there's a 4-family unit. One of the units left and there's 3 left. So I don't know. I don't know what you want me to do. That's why I asked, you know, I'm not sure.
I know what to do right now. Now is exactly the time when our shared services help.
That's
is
what I
really
said. Yeah.
needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Colleen,
Exactly what I was thinking.
I think, Colleen, this is absolutely the time when we have to reach out to Northampton and say, we're way over our head. We had a big problem and way over our head. We need help on how to get this thing resolved.
Mm-hmm.
They've got full-time
because
people.
the thing is like I could initially go in there and do it, but I know if I go initially in there, I'm going to be the one that, you know what I mean? Like they're just going to keep coming after me, but it's just one of those things because if I write the report, then it's me. And that's where I was saying like maybe this is where shared services come in because this is going to be during work hours, 100%.
And
so
that's what they've got full-time people, Lynn, and that's what we're doing this for. So we are definitely over our head on this one.
That makes the best sense.
So Colleen, can you get that and let's get it started? I think. But Lynn, you think too from those pictures and what you see that this place is condemned. We've had problems. This has not been a good landlord. This
okay. I didn't know that.
For many years, this has been a place that And if you look around there, if you look at the pictures on the outside and those junk cars and the trash
I
didn't
saw
get
that,
there
yeah.
in the last 2 months, that's for sure.
I saw that, yeah.
But
And just to let you know, I am doing a housing inspection tomorrow on the other one, because this one seems a little, it shouldn't, I'm gonna do it after work, obviously, but on South Street, I can't remember the,
Yeah.
yeah, that one. I
177,
don't,
yeah,
yeah, so I'm gonna head out there tomorrow and do that one. I mean, that one, like, I'm fine doing. It's just this one, I know it's just gonna be, it's gonna be a lot, the other one. It's on Jocelyn Street, so
so let's
just to let you know.
do it that way. So we have
Okay,
accomplished
thank
some
you.
things with you, Lynn.
Yeah, we sure have.
Okay, okay,
All
thanks.
right, thank you.
All right,
Have a good
Lynn.
night.
you
Okay.
too.
Bye-bye.
So we are 45 minutes. I didn't see Alan.
Didn't see Alan or Neil, right?
Neil is here.
Neil's here.
Okay.
No.
Neil is next. I guess we're at the point, Lee, Alan did submit, I can't talk about it, but in terms of
Oh,
the
yeah,
permit
the,
for 48 Burial
tank.
Road for the replacement of the septic tank. It's a 1,500 gallon, 2 compartment septic tank with a filter, and then the 2 D boxes down the hill to replace in position and just replace them, take them out, put new ones in. Are you gonna approve the permit?
Yes, I am.
Colleen, so I had to abstain from that. I'm in conflict.
Okay,
So we do have a quorum, and there was 1 abstention and 1 approval, so it's approved.
okay, okay.
Neil, we did 25 Cold Hill Drive. We did have conditions on it. There are actually three conditions. One is that you're going to fix the elevation of that
Yep.
of the units that are high, that one to the right.
Yeah.
The second is you need to supply the stamp drawing with the PE for the wall.
Yeah.
And Lee noted that you did not show any note saying that the neighbors' wells are beyond the 100 feet from the SAS.
Okay.
So we approved the design, but we're not going to approve the permit until you get those 3 things, and then I will, instead of waiting for another meeting, as soon as you get those, and Colleen says she's got them, then Lee authorize me to get it approved.
Okay. Yeah. The original plan had all the wells, and we were actually further away than we were before. So I will make sure I put those on the revised plan.
Okay, the next one
All right,
is on
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
326 Bachelor Street. And what we've done is we've said that we don't know that having that second unit on the property is not in fact, we believe that it's probably a zoning violation, but it may be pre-existing. So before we approve a septic system design, Colleen's gonna get in touch with the building inspector and find out what's legal there, so we can then talk to you, Neil, about what we're gonna be requiring.
Okay.
So, and I did briefly talk to Lee and Colleen also, but Bill isn't here right now. He's on the road someplace. But on the wine house, where I told Lee that you told me that you were gonna have the design for the tight tanks
For the
before
next
our
one.
next meeting.
Yep.
But what we didn't talk about is, and you heard some of the conversation about being a temporary operation and, you know, what your goal is. But my feeling, and I mentioned it to Neil today or yesterday, Lee, is that if your goal was to hurry up and get some toilets in there that were working, you'd be on Neil's case and saying, Neil, get this thing done. But your toilets would all be in position. Your building, whatever you're going to have, it'd be all there saying, Neil, get me that pipe and tell me where it is so I can hook up. But I haven't seen that construction occurring.
So I think he's waiting for elevation for the tank, so I'll make sure he has that quickly.
Okay.
I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm sure he's waiting for me. So you know, I will take the
He
bullet on
says
this.
he says he's waiting for you.
And
So
he is. So he needs that elevation for the tank.
okay.
For the
And
plumber.
before we go, Neil, that Colleen last week asked me about wrestle system, and I told her that we talked about having and we actually approved the concept of having one pump as compared with two. But I told Colleen we didn't act on it. You didn't supply us with the request for a variance, and we didn't.
Right, so I have to submit the Form 9A.
Yeah, because we can't approve the installation. In fact, we can't approve the design unless we approve the variance also.
Okay, all right, I'll get that submitted. I apologize.
So I don't think it's causing anybody any trouble right now, but when
Well,
uh,
they're ready, then I don't want to be the holdup.
okay. So is that it for you tonight, Neil?
I think so.
Okay,
Okay. All
Right,
right,
great.
Neil. Thank you.
Much. Thanks.
okay.
Good night.
So we can move out of this and start going. We did approve the minute. I've got Colleen's time sheet. Lee is for the 27th of July, and it's the normal 70-hour time sheet for the 2 weeks. Are we okay with that?
Yes, sure.
Colleen, I am too, so that's approved.
Okay,
The next one I have is the scheduled department payments to the treasurer. It's for this period is $1,680, and that's for $1,020 for Board of Health permits, $660 for Board of Health licenses, and that's it. That totals the $1,680. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
I am too, Colleen, so that's approved.
okay,
The next one is a permit to operate a mobile food server. And this is for Taylor Trask, Taylor the Baker, 732 Fuller Street, Ludlow. He did submit, and at first I had questioned and the base of operation, and he submitted from the town of Ludlow their permit, and it says that Taylor the Baker is located at 732 Fuller Street, and that they've got a permit for eating and drinking establishment. Now, Lee, in your mind, eating and drinking establishment means that they can prepare food. Is that correct?
Well, based upon, I mean, in the definition of what you're saying, sounds like that's what's going on, yeah.
Okay. So then they do have a base of operation. So are we going to approve this subject to Lynn inspecting it?
I would think that would be within the realm, yeah.
Okay, Colleen, and that I agree. So we'll approve that subject to Lynn inspecting it and passing it.
okay,
The next one is the certificate of compliance. And this is this is for, looks like it's from Laurie McCool. And it's a installation of an outlet T in an existing tank and a new distribution box. And she does have, that's at 562 East State Street. And she's got a layout of where the dimensions are. It's not total as built, but it's not really as built. There's no construction. They just put in a T and a distribution box. Are we okay with that, Lee?
Yeah, I was there for the initial Title V, and I was there probably about 9 days ago. Those 2 tasks have been completed. Of course, and everything appeared to be operating just fine when I was on site. So I think we're good.
Okay. Colleen, I'm okay with that too. So that's approved.
Okay. Okay.
The next one is construction of a new system. Oh, that's at 67 South Street. We didn't accept that the last time because there wasn't an as-built in terms of horizontal and vertical. And now Alan has submitted the as-built with horizontal and vertical dimensions. Are we all
that's
set
right.
with that now?
That was the final, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that too, Colleen. So
Okay.
that's approved. The next one is a disposal construction permit, and that is for, it looks like a D-box at 7 Lynn Drive. I don't know if it's done. This isn't it's not a completion one, I don't think, Colleen, is it? It's just an application.
Oh, it's an application to replace the septic tank in the D box.
And D-box.
Yeah.
Are we okay with that, Lee?
Yeah, this is the house that the tank
there was
and
no
the
water
box
in
needs
it,
to be that was the problem. So they are gonna, I think Greg Everson's gonna replace, but we have to do an inspection after full occupancy because it hasn't taken water for we don't know how long.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
They asked me about that on a perk test last week, and I explained to them. And Neil was involved and Greg, and they seem to understand that. Not sure that they like it, but that they understand that. I don't understand. I don't understand how they feel good, how anybody feels good about signing their name to something that they say, oh yeah, that leach field is fine. And they said, we just don't know that it's not been used for years. But we'll sign our name saying there's no water on the surface. And,
yeah, I don't understand the continuing argument with this phase of their profession because it happens repeatedly.
I know, and
It's confusing.
I explained to Greg and actually to Neil. Neil seems to understand it. They said, the code says we should approve it. We can't not approve it. I said, well, you should be happy that the Board of Health is coming to your rescue, saying, even though you said it's okay, we're saying maybe it's not okay, and we get you off the hook to let people really find out if it is okay. And Neil, I think Neil understands. Greg definitely seems to be saying the words say this, and I go by the words. And
it's not coming. It's not taking any money out of their pocket to install, get paid, and then just wait and do a reinspection. It would take a lot of money out of their pocket if they pass this thing and they find out, in a short period of time that, the system in fact was in failure, and I don't understand the resistance, but that's up to them, not us.
Greg
you know?
says,
I don't get it.
the rules say this, and I said, you know, Greg, he said, go on the other side and think about if somebody brought you to court, if there was a jury, and some attorney said to you, he said, you have these rules, and that's what you followed. He said, yes. And then he said, do you install septic systems? Do you think that the system was a good septic system? And when he says, I don't want you to say what the rules are, I want you to you're a trained observer. Is that in your mind a good septic system? And when you say, no, it's not a good septic system, then somebody's going to say, how come it's not written anyplace that this is no good? That instead it says, yes, it's a pass with no questions. I said, you're going to see that someday, it's likely that you're going to end up paying for the replacement of one of those. And
Yeah, in this litigious society, that may not be far off.
that's right. And I tell him, I said, that board, think about this the other way. Think about this as saying that the state has got a list of things that are so terrible that you don't have to be an engineer and you don't have to be a sanitarian to look in that hole and say, this is so terrible it failed. And that path so will fail. But you're not an engineer and you're not a sanitarian, so there's a whole bunch of things that make it lousy that you're not trained to do. So that you're the first line of the system. You're the first people that you're giving this information to the Board of Health to say, thank you for looking in that hole, but boy, we're afraid of this, and because of that, we're gonna do something about it. And it's because you looked in and you reported on what you saw. So we're part of the same team. You're part of it. And I said, you know,
and we're not going to tell anyone else in that business the opposite.
No.
Everyone's going to be told the same thing. So it's not as if his customers are being overcharged or overbilled for something. It doesn't matter if it was Greg Everson, Tom from River Drive, whoever they choose, going to be told the same thing repeatedly.
No, and
to try to,
and when I
yeah,
look
well,
at it, and they also, that a lot of these guys have a real problem saying that the whole bunch of us are involved to stop people from getting sick, to stop the environment from being hurt. And that's what our jobs are, is to make sure we're looking at it, to understand the big picture, the intent of things. And you're part of the system. It's not like you're there to try to sneak something by for somebody and say, yeah, it's okay for the environment to be poisoned, but I got it. I got a rule here that says it's okay to do that. And say, no, it's not okay to do that. You're part of the big picture. And they have a hard time understanding that they're part of making this world safe. So, but anyway, so that's that one. The next one on the list was 48 Ferry Hill Road. You already approved it. The next one is
Right.
a food establishment license for Wine House extended. Now, we granted an extension. Colleen, what did we granted the extensions for?
The retail,
For retail,
food.
but not the food part.
Yes, right.
And we granted that to what was it the 15th of August?
It was September, oh God, I don't have it in front of me. I think it was the 1st of September.
Okay. So should we just do this one too? That it wasn't my intent to have it separate. Lee and now Bill.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I just
Bill.
arrived. Sorry I'm late.
As long as you're here, let's get this over. So are we gonna move this to also the 1st of September? I think we should.
yeah, I'm good with that. Sure.
Okay.
Bill, are you?
Dick, repeat, I can't hear you.
Well, inadvertently at the last meeting, we extended Winehouse's,
Retail.
we didn't retail permit to the 1st of September, but we didn't extend the food establishment to that date. We just left it sitting there at June 1st. And my feeling is we should just move it. Both of them should have done the same thing. Our intent was to let them keep going.
Yeah, make them concurrent. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Sally,
Yep.
so we all agree.
September. Okay.
Before we go any further, Bill, that the septic tank and the 2 D boxes for 48 Ferry Hill Road. You weren't here. I abstained because it's my house. I didn't talk about it. Alan wasn't here. Lee approved the permit to replace them. But it was only Lee that.
Yeah, no. No, that's fine, Dick. I took a look at it. That's fine. Everything's good there.
Okay, so Colleen, both Lee and Bill
Okay.
approved that.
All right. Yeah, I got
The
that.
next one is Knick-Knack
Hey,
Bakery.
Dick, I'm curious. What you guys were discussing Everson? What was that? What was that location about the inspection?
That one was on Lynn Drive that we were talking about. That was
Oh,
7
okay.
Lynn Drive we've got one we're gonna get to tonight.
But here's my comment on that. Installers who are inspectors can be a little more cavalier in their inspection calls, because if they're ever taken to court or challenged, the amount of time and effort and money it takes them to repair a system is essentially nil, because they have their own equipment, they can do it themselves, they can do it at cost. So it's not quite as substantial a penalty as if it were an outside party being the inspector. So inspectors that happen to be installers, I found over time, tend to be a little more cavalier on their inspection criterion.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah.
So they don't have quite as much skin in the game.
That's exactly right. Because if Greg were called out on it, he'd say, okay, no problem. I'll get my backhoe and I'll get some sand and I'll get a tank and I'll put the thing in about 2 days. That's exactly right.
Of course, you're saying that figuratively. You're not saying that about Greg. You're not saying.
No, I'm just saying in general, installers in general.
Installers.
I'm just saying installers in general tend to be a little more aggressive on their calls if they are also inspectors. That's why I can't understand why they allow installers to be inspectors, but that's another story in itself.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
that's actually a good point.
Yeah, installers should not be inspectors. They should be independent third parties.
So the next one is Knick-Knack's Bakery, Melissa Hombriand in South Hadley, permit to operate food establishment catering.
Well,
Now,
this one is the girl that has a bakery in South Hadley, and what she wants to do is bring her cookies to the wine house, and they have a setup on their counter, and she leaves the cookies there. So I had talked to Lynn about it. She wasn't really a mobile food because she wasn't, but Lynn thought maybe the catering one, because she brings the cookies. So that's why.
So she has an approved kitchen in the town of South Hadley, is that correct?
Yes, she's got her licenses, Serve Safe, Allergen, and she has a town of South Hadley food establishment license at her home to do her baked goods.
This is the
Residential
one we
kitchen.
talked
It's a
about.
residential kitchen.
Yeah, Colleen, this is the one we talked about because it turns out that these are hers. They never end up that Jim Tromke buys them from her as a supplier. She owns these right out to the time that the end user eats them. So that means she's actually selling food. And
I
then,
don't know what her agreement is with him. Honestly, she just told me she brings them, leaves them on his counter, and then comes back the next week. So I don't know if he's giving her a certain amount or if yeah, I don't know which way that works with her, but
so what this would allow her to do, if she owns them, it allows him to sell those things for her. The other way to do it, he's got a food service establishment. And as long as this is a certified kitchen, then he could be buying them from her and reselling.
So Dick, the question is, who's responsible if somebody gets sick?
According to this, she's the one selling it, so she's responsible, right? That's
she
what this
have-
says.
Does she have or does she need a common victualer's license?
Yes, she would need to do that, huh?
yeah,
she
would
and
probably need to get the common victulars from the select board.
Yeah, and didn't we say all third-party products have to have a complete listing of ingredients posted?
Right.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, she labels all of her food. Yes.
Oh, okay, so it has a full list of ingredients.
She has a
Okay, good.
label, and that's why, and Lynn would go
Good.
check that out
Okay.
at the wine house. But yes, she has labels with the ingredients and everything is what she stated.
Good.
So this means that we're opening this up. We're signing off saying she can operate a food establishment and a catering business. That's what we're approving this for. And that's not, I understand why you did this, Colleen, and we said that she had to do this if that's the way Jim was gonna run his business. But boy, what we're giving her permission to do is a huge amount more than what she's proposing to do.
Well, through her kitchen in South Hadley, it's a residential kitchen, so she's limited to those items that she can do out of a residential.
What she's not ticket. But what we're doing here is we're not saying that that's the only place it can come from. We're telling her you're okay to run a catering business in town.
Why
That
don't
just
we
means the
qualify
devil's
it for such and such products only?
Hmm.
I could support that. You could,
Yeah, that's actually a good idea to limit the scope of the practice.
Yeah, to single service type cookies only, that's all.
For baked goods
Do you-
or whatever.
Big goods, yeah.
yeah, baked goods. Are you gonna also say that it's only at the wine house? That's what this is? We actually give her what she's asked for. A permit to sell baked goods at the wine house.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
So we just modify it. and we can give it to her. We'll just modify this. We can approve it with those modifications. Is that,
Yeah, yeah.
Bill
Say-
and Lee, is
say
that
ba-
okay? So it doesn't have to wait
Yeah,
two
say
more weeks.
baked goods only at Wine House only.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sure.
And
And
then
that's,
it gives her exactly what she asked for.
yeah, that's crystal clear.
Okay. So that's what we'll do.
Okay.
The next one is, oh, this is
Union Mart.
this is Union Mart. So we've got 3 licenses, I think. A license to sell retail food, a license to sell milk and cream, and then a tobacco permit. Do we, this one we've got a letter from the state saying that he has been decertified and he is not a public water supply. So this says when Lynn goes in to inspect this, he can't be selling anything that involves water coming from his well going to the public.
Dick, is it the same operator, Ali, or is it a different guy?
It's a different guy.
These are new people.
So is it operating under the Union Mart Corporation?
Yeah, it says 3 Harry Granby Limited Liability Corporation doing business as Union Mart.
So here's the question. Are the fines and penalties that we levied last year still in force, or are they waived?
Are they all paid, Colin?
They were paid. Yeah,
Everything?
he was good with us. Yeah.
Oh,
He paid-
okay.
Yep, he did pay everything.
Okay.
Mhm.
So are we okay with these 3 things, subject to Lynn going in and making sure that the food part is safe and there's no water being consumed by the public?
Is this property been cleared by the building inspector? There was a fire in the upstairs apartment. I don't know if the building is, up to par as far as,
Oh,
whatever damage,
Oh, yeah, didn't they have a
Fire.
rodent, they had a rodent issue, didn't they?
rodent issue, fire, and there's also, been a neighborhood complaint about, breakout on the, SAS.
really?
So I don't know how much of the place is ready to go right now, is my question.
Wow.
How long's it been vacant? Vacant for, well,
Oh,
what, January?
Yeah, probably
I'd say
six
around
months anyway.
January. Yeah, I'd say around January because
You know what?
renew his.
So do we
With
need
that-
a Title V reinspection,
In fact, the building probably was sold.
90 days in?
I think you
The
need,
building was sold, they need a Title V.
Well, I
But
don't know if
maybe
the
they-
building was sold or if it's just the business that was sold. I think it's someone else who owns the building. I think.
with a comment that you just made, Lee, about the septic system in SAS. It would seem reasonable for us to say this thing has been shut down, we should be getting a statement from the building inspector saying it's suitable for this use. And we can order a Title V inspection to be done. And we should order the Title V inspection to be done.
It seems reasonable at this point in time, especially with the, vacancy of the building for that length of time.
With the suspicion that there was an SAS issue, and if you look at that property, I'm going to guess the water table is at about 18 inches there.
Yeah. Yep, that's probably about right.
So you're sitting there quietly.
Oh, no, I'm just checking something on the computer here. No, I'm just listening to you guys.
So with our history on this building, it certainly seems like it's reasonable for the building inspector to certify that the building is safe for this intended use and occupancy, and that we're ordering a Title V inspection be done of the septic system.
Do they have enough room to replace the leach field elsewhere, or are they gonna?
I don't know.
Yeah, my guess is they're gonna probably have to hog out what's there and replace it in its current location. But that's that's their problem, I guess.
Yeah, but it looks like what's happening is you get, by having a different owner on the building, you get the operation going with escaping the fact that it might be damaging the environment.
Yeah, there's just a couple of potential serious questions that are being not overlooked, but pushed to the back burner here, which I think at least we should get some help from the building inspector.
Yeah.
To make sure that we're not just telling someone, go ahead and open, with some potential serious violations that may or may not have ever been addressed from the past.
The other thing is we know that the past couple owners have not been friendly to our community in terms of protecting our children from smoking, or they just haven't been, and they haven't readily complied with the fines that they had either. So that whether the operation, I know this is a new owner, but the operation seems to be saying, gee, I can't afford to run this properly. There's either not enough money or they choose not to do it, but I think you're right that if the building isn't safe, we should do it. And if it's not sound environmentally, this is the time to go after the solution. So is that what the three of us are saying, that we want a Title V done on the septic system, and we also want the building inspector to certify that the building is safe for its intended use, which is a dwelling unit and the store. Is that correct?
Was there an allegation that the system was leaching out of the ground at one point?
That's what Lee said.
Yes, that's correct.
Lee, who did you hear that from?
Several of the patrons that went there on a regular basis made note that on warm days there was a section of a septic-like odor in the air. And, some people had claimed that there was, some breakout on the side of the, system in the back.
Okay. Colin, do you have their pumping records?
I'll have to check my file to see if there are any.
The other thing is, we know from our experience, the water table in that area is really high.
Yeah. But we should be collecting pumping records, so we should have a record of the historical pump. Maybe they haven't pumped the thing in 10 years, who knows? But if that's
So
the
it
case,
sounds like,
yeah, if
sounds
that's the
like
case,
this-
let's have them do a Title V. That makes sense.
well, that's what I think we do. You just do it.
So they are doing it, due to it being vacant for 6 months, for the last 6 months? For my letter.
Yeah, and the fact that it's been vacant for 6 months and our experience is that it's got a very high water table in the area. Since the complaint may not be documented, I'm not sure we want to say that.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's correct. The complaints are hearsay.
But
Even
like
though
you
it's
said,
numerous.
it's very likely then from what you're saying, the system is in the water table, not even
Very, very likely.
an inch above it. It's in the water table. Okay.
It's reasonable to look around at all the other systems that have been repaired are all up elevated.
Okay.
So we're
I can
not,
support that.
we're not approving any of these licenses.
Okay,
Okay. So the next one, let's get on our list. 173, these are for Title V inspection. 173 Bachelor Street, David Berry needs further evaluation. At the last meeting, we went through all of that. And this is just David saying, and we said that everybody agreed that the septic tank was going to be replaced, the SAS was going to be replaced, the well was going to be tested, and it was going to continue to be tested for 2 years. Now, what are we going to say, every 6 months? Well, actually, that's not part of this. This is just accepting the Title V. Are we going to accept that Title V?
I haven't reviewed it, Dick. I can't even comment on it. I have not looked at it.
Well, we spent a whole bunch of time on the new Title V. Okay. We can wait until, Colleen, could you just carry that to the next meeting? Because it really,
yes,
it doesn't matter because they're doing something, they've got to do it a perk test and they're going to design the system so that doesn't, what the Title V says doesn't really matter.
mhm,
The next one is 33 Green Meadow Lane. And it was there's a Title V that I was cornered. And I was told, actually it's by Greg Everson and Neil Jackson, that Lee was out on this particular test. And it's again, a shallow well, a leach field but it looks like, I think the well is far enough away. But they've got a tank, and I was told, a tank that's in lousy condition with the liquid level right up to the outlet of the tank, a D-box that's dry, with dirt on the bottom of it, and a leach field that was dry, hadn't been used, and the house hasn't been used. That's the 1st of June. And I said, well, we've got and Lee says, this is going to have to be looked at in between 3 months and 6 months from now after reoccupancy. Look at the SAS again and replace the tank. It's a small tank, and the D-box is no good. You have to replace that. And And I said, well, let's look. And they said, oh, there's a low spot in between the tank and the D box with a hole in it. And I said, well, they said, well, what are you thinking about? What do you think the Board of Health is going to say? I said, well, I think we're going to talk about it. But I said, you've only been not used for 45 days, so it doesn't fit our 90-day use. And the septic tank's all the way up to the top. So I said, it's probably reasonable. The Board of Health is liable to say, you know what? If you got a hole in the bottom of a pipe and you've got a D box that's just missing a bottom, it's reasonable to assume that if the house has been used full blast 45 days from ago, it's probably reasonable to assume that you don't have to re-inspect, but you will have to test the water for sure. I said, that's what I think the board's going to talk about. Then I read the Title V. The Title V said, well, the tank is almost up to the outlet. So we're back to Lynn Drive again, that you don't have any idea. So that the house hasn't been used for a month and a half. The tank isn't up to the outlet. The distribution box doesn't have any liquid in it, and there's no sign that the leach field's been used recently. I said, that's exactly the same as Lynn Drive. How can you possibly know that the leach field's any good if the water's never been up to the top of the tank?
So the outlet level is below the invert leaving the tank, correct?
The tank level is below the invert leaving the tank.
Okay, by how many inches?
Doesn't say. He used the term about or somewhat.
Well, is it above or below the invert?
Below. And when I
It is
said
below, okay.
I
Because if
said,
it was
when you
above,
told-
that would signify there's an obstruction somewhere in the system between the tank and the D box.
That's right.
So below
That's right.
indicates there's a leaking tank, the tank's leaking.
So I sent both Neil and Greg a text saying, you guys, I just want to correct something. You guys told me the liquid level in the tank was up to the right level. And I just read your Title V. Your Title V says it's not. I said, that's not the question you asked me. You didn't give me the right answer, the right data. And so I absolutely think that the Board of Health, it's reasonable, I said, to assume that the Board of Health is going to say, you can't tell anything about that leach field.
That's right.
And so, and then Greg once again got back and he says, oh no. He says, what I write down is what counts, not what I say. So.
When did you talk to him, Dick?
Unbelievable.
I think it was last Thursday there was a perk test for new construction.
So you saw him in person?
I saw him, I saw him in person when he asked me the question, and then he gave me a bunch of grief about saying, the Board of Health in Granby is hard to do business with. They make up their mind what they want to do. They tell you one thing in the field, and then when it comes time to do something else, back it up. They don't go along with it. I can't do business anytime with the Board of Health. They're so hard to do business with.
He said that to you in person?
That's what he said. And I
Wow.
said, you know what, Greg? What you're saying is, what, 1 out of 50 times the 3 members of the Board of Health has to talk about it. The rest of the 50 times, you know exactly what it is. And I said, the reason you have 3 members of the board is so we can talk about this and use our expertise to come up with it. But then when I went back and said, yeah, and then you don't tell me what really was, you ask me a question, but you give me the wrong data. And then you get an answer to substantiate your complaint. And then he said, well, I guess that's what Lee said anyway, so it's okay. So we just have to be careful. But it goes back to, again, to the same thing that that it's okay. They don't feel bad about signing their name, saying, I'm gonna sign something and surprise. And Neil actually told me, because the new owner's supposed to understand what's going on. It's not up to us. We follow the rules. It's buyer beware. I said, that's why they hire people. Is the people who do know, because they're not aware. How does a person coming from Springfield or Holyoke that's only had sewers, how do they possibly know what they have to watch out for? So.
It's funny they say that, because that morning, the realtor suggested to Greg that since it was an old system and there was some problems that were unknown, she was open to discussion about replacing the entire system right then and there and go into a repair perk with Neil present. But it didn't.
Who was Greg employed by for this project? The owner, the realtor, or some other party?
I don't know.
I do not know. I don't know that.
Because clearly, I'm sure he's under influence of some party. Being pressured by some party.
Who's ever paying the bill? Yeah.
I've got this feeling that that's not the case with Greg. I really think that Greg looked at the words that are written, not the intent, the word. And that when he says, I look out on that grass and there's nothing on the surface, boom, it's not a fail, it's a pass, because there's nothing on the surface. That he has no compunction about saying, yeah, but if it was used, it might be no good. He says, nope, the rule says when I look there, is there anything on the surface? And I can put no.
He's being coached by an attorney. That's something an attorney would tell someone to say.
Well, I pointed out.
That's
legalese.
You
know, when I said, you want to see how it happened, and I won't give the two people that are involved, but it happens that I know that what I'm telling you is the absolute truth. This person bought a house in Granby. The real estate agent told and the person that bought the house was from the city. And the person was smart enough to be talking about septic systems. And the real estate agent said, I want you to know this house just had a Title V certified repair to the septic, a certified repair. And the person said, I'm set. Okay. We got in the house. The house wasn't used it was used. I don't know how many people were in it. I don't think many people used it. But the new owner had a couple kids, and the system failed right away. And it went back to the real estate agent and said, you told me this has got a Title V system. And the real estate agent said, no, I didn't. You look at what's written. What's written says it's a Title V certified repair. They just replaced the septic tank, and that was according to Title V. The rest of the system wasn't repaired, and that's up to you to know that. And I told both Neil and Greg, said, I don't know that I told Neil. I don't know that I told him. I said, what happens is when that stuff happens, and someone takes those real estate agents to court, you'll see a jury is going to tag them because they know that an unknowing person doesn't have any idea that they've misled them into thinking they have a good septic system.
Dick, that's an inherent problem with the Title V inspection protocol. Someone could be running a system with two people in the house using 100 gallons a day for 20 years. It could be performing perfectly. They sell the house. 6 people move into the house, 3-bedroom. 6 people could be moving into the house, running a heck of a lot more water, and the thing fails in a jiffy. Under that circumstances, who's at fault? That's the question.
No, that's why you have to have the Board of Health be involved and say, you know what, we looked at that, quite frankly, one of those inspectors argued with us before you were back on the board on a system that was on New Ludlow Road still. And it had, for a leach field, it had either 1 or 2 pieces of clay pipe. That was it. That's the whole leach field. And that inspector said, this is a pass. It doesn't meet any of the failures. No sweat. It's a pass.
Yeah.
And say, boy, when it's grossly undersized, in fact, who knows, but the system could have been taken away. Who knows? But that person also was arguing, saying, who are you to say that that's no good? So anyway,
Again, there's several flaws to the Title V inspection protocol, and that's certainly one of them.
yeah, that's right. So anyway, so that we've got that. So what are we doing on that one? Are we saying that where Greg is saying, Colleen, doesn't Greg call this one a pass? No, he doesn't.
Conditional pass.
Conditional pass. He just wants to replace the septic tank. Now, and D-box. So on this one, do we say that we're gonna require, Bill, this is one that's 3 bedrooms on a half-acre lot with a shallow well. Is this to be consistent? Do we say that this one needs re-inspection 3 to 6 months after occupancy, and it needs water testing of the well, the shallow well for nitrate?
Yeah, yes, both criterion, yes. That's
Lee,
my
is that what you see
recommendation.
too?
Yes, I would agree.
So in addition to the replacement of the tank in the D-box,
Require, inspection.
re-inspection,
Yep.
re-inspection of the SAS 3 to 6 months after reoccupancy, and water testing. I guess that should be, in reality, that should be the same 3 to 6 months. Or do you do it now? Do you do it now, or say it's got to be done now and every 6 months for the first 2 years after reoccupancy?
Yeah, I do it now. Create more data. You have an earlier benchmark. That makes sense.
Yeah, so now plus
That's a good idea.
every 6 months for 2 years after reoccupancy,
Every 6 months for 2 years.
after occupancy.
And of course, Dick, now the thing is, who's going to be doing the testing? You need an independent third party to do the testing.
I guess our best thing is at least to get it tested.
Yeah, okay.
If it's done at all. You'd hope that the new person coming in, he's saying, I'm gonna test it because I don't want to get sick from my own well.
That's right. Yeah. They have a vested interest in following proper protocol. That's right.
So
What do you,
we've got that.
what do they have to test for? Anything in particular or just regular?
We're actually looking for nitrogen and nitrates. Is that right, Phil?
Yeah, and coliform and fecal coliform as well, E. coli.
Well, that's true. So bacterial contamination and nitrogen and nitrates.
Okay.
We do have another question. So we dealt with Jacqueline Circle. We've got a request for a septic permit extension on Carver Street, Lot A. Now this was I'm looking back a long, long time ago. It was the Burnett property, and now it's over, or it was in Overly, I think. It's on the right side after, what are the estates that go up that are going in the rocks over there on the left, Phil?
Oh, Gene Galuska?
No, this one is up on
Oh,
Turkey Hill.
Munsing Ridge.
Up above.
Oh, okay.
So we've got a lot. Been perked a couple times. It's got an old perk. Colleen, you looked it up. It's got a perk that could be, I think it could be redone to get the 8 years, but it's Title V permit is running out in October. The people are asking for the 1-year extension on the construction permit. So if we look at the situation, we don't fit into what Title V says, and that the system hasn't been started and that it just needs the year to finish it off. So it doesn't fit in that. It does fit in that they're asking for the extension before the time runs out. What Colleen was asked is, can we give the extension because they don't have a building permit yet? So if you look at where we are, we have extended a couple in the past that had building permits that they were, one of them, the system was in fact, and they were both late and when they asked, but they were both in a spot that the systems were in fact going to be installed. The building permits were in place, that everything was ready. In fact, one of them, the house was already. So there is a spot that the different things that actually can happen. One is there is a valid permit to install a septic system. So someone could install the septic system or start to install it now, and before it runs out in October, and you could get it all the way done before October. The next one would be that you could start to install it now and come in and say, I didn't finish. Could you please extend the permit to give us that 1-year extension to the next October? There's another that they could do, is they could use the out of season perk provision and actually get a new permit that would be valid for 3 more years, subject to going in March and April and doing a deep test. The other is they could take the permit that they have, go to the building inspector and say that we'd like to get a building permit, but by the time the Board of Health ends up having to sign off on the permit, the building permit, the septic permit is going to be ready to run out. And so we still end up with something saying, gee, if this permit runs out before you put the system in, you can't install the system. You're going to end up needing a new permit to install the permit. To install the system. So what do we tell this person who wants an extension? You could be saying, we understand with the way we we're stretching it out beyond, saying we understand that you couldn't get your building work done because of the money situation and delivery and stuff. That on the other houses we did that, but the houses were clear. There were building permits. There was a house. There were things. This is different. There is no building. So do you? And if you extend it, it can only be extended to a year period.
Building permit, is that a 24-month, opportunity?
You don't know what that is.
It's gotta be 12 anyway. But, yeah, so it's confusing to me that they want another year on it if they're not pulling a building permit to make something happen. And the reality of the building process is that another, it's not my money, but another $600 or so for a couple deep hole tests and a witness in the scope of new home construction is not going to be much to think about.
Yeah. I think that Lee, and taking it a step further, if you grant the permit extension, this person could just sell the lot and say, hey, I've got a permit that's good for a year from now. Next person gets the lot and they're screwed because we gave a permit extension when we shouldn't have given the permit extension.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen, Dick. This sounds like a house flip situation to me.
Whether it is or not, the situation could be that that's what ends up having to happen. The person could not get a loan.
Mhm.
They could, there's any number of things that happen that we're in a spot that the right way to do this thing is to go back to the engineer and say, okay, I really need the actually there is a way for the owner to deal with it on the up and up. And that's to use the out of season perk test provision that we have that says he goes to the building inspector, gets his building permit, and if he chooses to build it, he can actually build it. He can get his permit. He just can't put the septic system in until he deals with getting the new septic permit. And then he passes ahead. If he wants to sell it, he can sell it. He's got a 3-year permit. And it works. So that if the person is doing exactly what they want to do, what they're telling us that they're doing, the person could go to could get his building permit. And he gets his building permit, but he just won't get a new septic permit until he would have to get a new septic permit before it goes in.
Yeah, that takes it to the level of commitment,
Yeah.
obviously.
Or he could take the permit that he has, go to the building inspector, get his building permit, get the whole thing going, get everything up and running, get his house in, 3/4 built or whatever, and then come to us and say, hey, look I really did. I built this house. I did everything. Now I just need the permit extended for the year to finish it up. And then you could extend the permit, but the house would be all built and it wouldn't be a system of being worried about flipping or selling something that doesn't exist. That could work too. So it would be the owner that has to decide how they want to do it.
I think he's listening on Nicholas, are you on the meeting? Okay,
Yes,
here.
how you doing?
Good, how are
Wait,
you?
Hi there,
are
I'm
you
sitting in.
listening to,
Sorry, I joined earlier and then I just joined back in. So I'm actually the new owner of the property. We closed the first week of July. So I do plan on going all the way, building a house there. But my engineer, Neil Jackson, told me to file for an extension. That way I can get my building permit and everything should be pretty good to go. And if the time frame is correct, hopefully the house should be finished right around July of next year, if not June. That's kind of what our time frame is hoping for. So he just said file an extension with the Board of Health to make sure that I can, what you already have on file with the previous owner, if we can extend that as it's already been approved, and it's as easy as getting the building permit after that.
yeah, what happens is the code said I think you probably missed the conversation. The code says for the extension that the the septic construction permit lasts for 3 years. You can extend it for up to a year if you ask for the extension before the permit runs out, which you are asking. And the reason it's extended is because you just needed some extra time that it's already well under construction and you just can't finish it. So in our case, it's not under construction. There are a couple things that you can do. Colleen looked up that when the perk test was done, we've got a regulation that says the perk test was good for 4 years, but after that, you can go in and dig the triple deep hole and everything. If everything is the same, then you can extend the perk test for another couple of years, or up to a total of 8 years from the original perk test.
Okay.
And then you can use that to ask for, submit a new design, which if nothing else changed, the old design could be resubmitted for a new permit. So at this instance, you actually could ask for a new design to get a new 3-year permit. You could do that. However, you would have to do these deep holes in March and April. So you could do that.
Okay.
You could go with the permit that you have right now and go to the building inspector and get a building permit.
Yep.
You could actually then, if you actually started the house and started the system, then you could come before the end of October or close to whenever at some point, kind of soonish before the end of the year, you could come back to the board and say, look I did do this. I started on this system and I just can't finish it. I need that extension. At which point the board could say, oh yeah, we're actually giving an extension that you actually did start to construct that thing. And you
Gotcha.
need a little more time to do. But what we're concerned with is asking for the extension without a permit, without a house, without anything, that you could easily say, you know what, I couldn't get the loan. And we don't know that you would do this, but if you say, gee, even though I just closed on it, in reality, I just lost my job or I can't get a loan to build a house. Now I've got a perk test with an extension that doesn't meet not a perk test, it's an approved design, a construction for the septic system. That's extended, that's not been done according to code, and you then sell it to the next person with a valid design, and in reality, we've given something that we shouldn't have done, that the code said we shouldn't have done that. So from your standpoint, the the, you can move forward with what, some of the stuff that you have. And come back to us and say, see, I really did, I built this, I got my permit, I did this thing, and now I'm asking for an extension. The other that you can do is we've got a provision that says if you ask for a new permit, a new 3-year permit, we would grant that it's done, we call it an out of season permit. It's not done in March and April. The water table is not done in March and April. That you could actually get that new 3-year permit, get us to approve the 3-year permit. You could still be taking your old permit and move forward and be working with the building inspector. But the new permit would say, the Board of Health will sign off on this. It doesn't matter if you take 3 years to build it, you take 3 years to build it. But in the month of March and April, you have to go in and dig a couple holes to make sure that the soil's the same, that they haven't dug up your whole lot and changed everything around, that the water table is the same, and then that would go for 3 years.
Okay, so that's pretty good. So you would recommend, just to verify, that I resubmit, we plan on using the same septic plan that y'all do have on file. You know, the proposed building matches and reflects what we plan on building. So can I just resubmit that same plan underneath my name, you know, pay whatever it is for the 3 years, if that makes sense? I think it's what, $200 or something like that for the permit?
Yeah, you can't, it has to be an engineer that does that.
Okay.
So when I told Colleen that, when she said what would be the smartest way, the easiest way to get this thing done, given where I think you are, the smartest thing to do would be to go ahead and start your building permit process. Just start things.
Okay.
You do have, you're at a,
approval.
yeah. So as part of that process, someplace down the road, the building inspector is going to have the Board of Health have to sign off on the well and the septic system. So that'll be coming before you actually get the permit in hand. I would at the same time be going to whether you're dealing with Neil or whoever would be the easiest person. I think the person that I think it was Hunt, not Huntley. No, it wasn't. It was
Sherman and Frederick did the
Sherman and Frederick.
Original design, and then
That was
Neil as kind of like a coach. This is my first house I'm building. This is my first anything. So this is whatever you tell me. I have no clue.
Yeah.
We're learning as if that makes sense.
I don't know what you're going to get in trouble for, because Sherman and Frederick sold their company. So I don't know where you're getting into a bind, but I do know that Sherman and Frederick was so busy at the time to do the perk test that Sheehan Associates did the actual perk test.
Gotcha.
And they happened to work with Neil Jackson closely. So I don't know where you're going there, but what it would be is a different engineer would ask for a new permit. We would approve the permit subject to you being told that if the water table is wrong, you could have to raise the level of the system. We don't know what you're going to find in March and April. But that process allows you to have something that the Board of Health signs off on, saying you can go all the way through with building your whole house, except you can't put the septic system in until you dig 2 deep holes in March and April.
Okay, so that sounds pretty good to me. That sounds nice and fair. So, you know, proceeding forward, I just want to make sure I got all my eggs in a basket here. Proceeding forward, I don't want to step on anybody's toes or do anything wrong. So
You won't step on anybody's toes. We've got tough toes.
I appreciate it. So now I should be going, my next step should be going to the building inspector, showing him the Board of Health meeting that we're speaking today, saying, I can get approval once we do those tests in April and, I'm sorry, not, yeah, March and April.
March and April. So just to help you out, there's a brand new building inspector who's never dealt with this before. What
Okay.
you're gonna end up, his back is gonna be covered because the Board of Health is gonna have to sign off on the well and the septic system. That covers his back.
Okay.
So that's gonna be a piece of paper that comes along after he goes through his stuff saying, okay, you've got a safe design, you've got all his. So what you would be well off doing if in fact you've chosen an engineer or a sanitarian or whatever, to have they understand this process, is to have them get in touch with me and say, let's make sure that everybody's ducks are in line. This is what we're trying to do because of the time frame that we've got. We're trying to get the new permit done, get it in place, so you've got the 3 years to get that done. And just make sure it goes smoothly. And the issue, especially if it's a new engineer that's gonna submit the design, figure out how that's gonna be easily transferred, because you don't want to pay for a whole new design when the design is okay. If it may be that you just have to go to Sherman for the submittal of the permit. It may
So
be
the
that
person
you
who
have
did
to go
the
to Sherman.
So the person who completed the design has to submit it to Granby.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay.
So that may be
So that may be why
that
Neil
making a
had me.
call to Sherman and Frederick and say, hey, these guys want a new application.
Okay.
And because Sherman and Frederick, the perk test validity is a Granby time frame. It's not a state time frame. So Sherman and Frederick may say, nothing has changed. We're happy with the perk test. We'll just give you a new application and say you can have our somebody already paid that. Hopefully someone paid for that design, so that
Yes, they did.
that they're not in the spot that says baloney, and we've been waiting to finally get the guy that owns the slot to pay for this design. So hopefully that didn't happen.
We can
And
only
they
hope.
just said, yeah, we'll give you a new cover sheet and you'll be home free.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. So it sounds like my next step should be to go. I just want to verify I'm getting the next step. I'm taking it one step at a time. So go to the building inspector, let him know that we spoke, kind of how we leave it. And then hopefully he should be able to issue me a building permit. We can start pretty quickly. And then after that, come March and April, we dig the deep holes and we verify that everything's still the same. And then we can get the septic system installed after that.
Yeah, someplace in here, you're going to be looking at the end of October. You
Yeah.
will no longer have a valid disposal works construction permit. That will be dead.
Okay.
So someplace through here, you need to be getting a new disposal works construction permit application.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. All right. It's all clicking now. I appreciate you explaining this all to me. All right, so yeah, I think that all sounds pretty good to me. So I can proceed to go on with the building permit, and before October 26th or something like that, just come back to the Board of Health and ask for it, and have Sherman and Frederick submit me a new design, or not a new design, I'm sorry, a new permit.
That's what, if life were horrific for you, that would be it. And then the Board of Health would be telling them, hey, guys, we'll sign off on this thing. Your design is fine, but we're gonna have to dig some new holes that they actually can't put in the system until after that. But we'll sign off on the building permit, we'll get, so that, someplace along the line, I'm almost positive the building inspector is gonna make you put a well.
The well is already installed on the land.
What is? Okay.
And I'm working on well tests. We did a well test, but it came back with some chloroform. So the previous owners actually went for a building permit and the lead was so high that the Board of Health said, no, you can't, or something like that. You have to get filtration. And I retested the well 2 years later after the previous owners did, and everything came back great. We're just treating some chloroform, which should be coming back in the next couple days.
You don't have to treat that anyway, because that's contamination from the surface.
Oh, okay. Well, that works. I guess I'm one step ahead then.
Yeah. So
Okay, so
anyway,
October, we'll either be submitting a new permit or we'll be asking for an extension after the building permit has been completed.
yeah. So you just need to be, go be working with the building inspector right now.
Okay.
And someplace down the road, you're going to get a form that the Board of Health has to sign off on for the well and the septic.
Okay, that all sounds like a great plan. I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, good night.
Thank you. You as well.
Dick, what we should do for future reference is you should take your criteria and make a decision tree of this, put it on the website so people can look at it themselves. Because
Yeah.
trying to convey that information is a very
It's
lengthy and arduous process.
And it took half an hour of our time.
Yeah, so just give them a decision tree and let them filter through it themselves.
Yeah, yeah. And as it points out, that it really says that particular explanation didn't have to be at a Board of Health meeting. It didn't have to occupy you and Lee or whatever. It easily could have been a little explanation on the side that.
Yeah, that's fine. No worries. Very
We've
good.
got. So we've got the Board of Health regulations were never, it's 9:30, so that's not happening tonight. Colleen, did you, in terms of Dollar General, that maybe you can give us a quickie report. You said that Tyler Avery is still in charge of the project. Were you able to get through to Tyler at all?
No, but I called and left him a message. I sent him an email and then I said, well, I'm going to call the district manager because God knows who I would talk to at corporate when they have so many people for whatever. So I said, I went to the district manager who I've called before and he's always cooperative. And he reached out to their maintenance people, whatever, that handle these things.
Mhm.
And they told him that Tyler Avery was still in charge of this project. He was the one that was still involved or in charge of it. And I said, listen, we haven't been able to contact him or get anything from him for a year or longer. And he said, well, I'm going to tell them to tell him to contact you. So I haven't heard anything yet. But he did say he was going to tell his maintenance people to get in touch with him and to contact us.
Okay, thank you.
So
Lee and Bill, what do we do to try to get this to happen?
Dick, like I said last meeting, the only hammer we have is the linkage of their vitular and their other permits we have to tie those permits to this process. That's the only hammer we have. Otherwise, we're going to go to court and spend a pile of taxpayer money.
Maybe one more call back to your regional person, Colleen, that you can talk to, and tell them that Tyler isn't getting back to you. You're trying to get in touch with him and he won't get back. And that the board is going to have to start going after shutting down your ability to sell stuff in the town. And that it's our only, leverage that we have right now. We don't want to do it, but that we will do it.
That's right.
And the tobacco licenses are expiring at the end of September, because we're starting on that new, so that renewal will be going out in
So
about the
you
middle
can
of
tell them
August.
that. That's the first one that we'll
So,
act on, is the board will talk about rescinding that, not renewing that license.
yep. All right.
That will get some
Are we
action.
allowed to do that, from a
Well,
legal perspective?
We may not be, but at least if Colleen says that that's what we're planning to do, if they won't talk to us, then,
That's true
then
too.
we haven't said we're doing anything. It's what we plan to do.
It's part of the negotiating process.
Right. It's not,
Okay,
this is
okay.
this is like owning an atomic bomb. If you, atomic bomb, you
That's
fail.
right. That's right.
You never want to use it, blow up the bomb.
Right.
What's
Yeah, for your
crazy about this
possession.
is
Yeah.
that I think there's a solution at hand here, and we just have to get it done. But
It's called gamesmanship right now. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah, unfortunately.
so I'm sure, and nobody, as it turns out, we're actually trying to come up with a solution that does work, that's reasonable, and that it's one that's the right way to do it, and not have the courts do it. But so if you do that,
Yeah,
Colleen,
we're trying to do their job for them.
but in this case, if we tell them that we really want to work to get the solution, but Tyler won't do it, and the only thing that the board has got for a tool is to start going after licenses, and we're going to start looking at the soonest one that's going to be up is the smoking one, and that's what we're going to go after.
Yeah, that's the only thing corporate's gonna understand is income.
That's
Right.
it.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yep.
So with that, we are at 9:30. I think it's time that we stop. Colleen said, Bill, that she was told that there was a wire on Ferry Hill that was smoking today,
Oh, that's what it was. Oh.
but it must have been between my house and your house, because I didn't
Yeah,
get it.
because we're down from 9:30 to about 11:30. We're down for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what happened. Okay. But it came
And
on.
something must have happened, because I went to a grave site, a burial,
Yeah.
and the person, the minister there was Audrey Walker, who I think is Audrey Galusha.
Yes, yes.
And she said she had a little laptop and said, I couldn't work on my little homily because I couldn't print it. I didn't have any electricity. So I'm guessing George's house didn't have electricity either.
Yeah, I looked on the National Grid outage map, and from your house, Dick, down to my house, we had supposedly they had 31 customers without power. So it's very limited, very, very limited.
So anyway, then let's all go. I'd say go home, but we're home already.
Okay. Thank you again, everyone. All the best.
Okay, good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good
night.
Yeah,
Good
bye
night.
now.
everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye. Thank